Hey guys, what's up, Power of Boxing? I had to do a video on the video I just watched on ES News, Ellie Setback's boxing channel on YouTube. It's titled Malignaggi, Keith Thurman beats Pacquiao and Mayweather. And then Paulie Malignaggi goes off saying, I think Keith Thurman's the best welterweight in the world. I don't think anyone can beat him. He's the best right now. And if Keith Thurman were to fight Pacquiao or Mayweather right now, I would pick him to beat them both. Okay, so all I gotta say is put your money where your mouth is. Why don't, if that fight, one of those fights or both of them ever happen, or at least one of them, I want to see if he bets on Keith Thurman. That's what I want to see, and how much he's gonna bet on Keith Thurman. But anyway. Let's see. Let's go back at Keith Thurman's record. I'm not saying in this video. I'm not saying Keith Thurman isn't good. I think Keith Thurman is good and he has a lot of potential, but he hasn't proved it enough with the opponent, his opposition. He just hasn't proved it, and he hasn't earned to be called the best yet. And he just, like I said, his opposition hasn't been great. So I do think he's a good fighter, but to say that he's going to beat Pacquiao and Mayweather at this point is way too early. But so let's go back to Keith Thurman's record. He's 23-0. He's undefeated with 21 knockouts, 87% knockout percentage, very high. But let's see who he has beaten in his last 5 fights. Carlos Quintana, 29-3. John Vavic, 32-2. Diego Gabriel Chavez, 22-0 at that time. Jesus Soto Caras, 28-8-3. Julio Diaz, 40-9-1. So really, he's beaten good fighters. But what one of those names is a great fighter that he has beaten? None of those fighters I listed are great fighters. They're good fighters, but they're not great fighters. And to say Keith Thurman is going to beat the two best of this era that are still on top, that are still number 1 and number 2 pound for pound, to face them and to beat them, he can do it. I'm not saying he can't do it, but to say from what we've seen from Keith Thurman, and you got to say the hype is getting to people, really. To be honest, I think Keith Thurman is being overrated now. And not just him. I think a lot of boxers, since boxing is a business, I think they're kind of overrating their product, and they're pushing out the product way too early and way too soon, and getting people too hyped up for a product that hasn't earned it, really. So they're rolling out the products, the fighters, way too early, saying they're this, they're that, but really they're not. If you look back at Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao's career, they weren't known to be like, oh, the best in the world or in the division until they beat in great fighters. Until Manny Pacquiao beat Barrera, beat Morales, beat Marquez, Oscar De La Hoya. Did Manny Pacquiao start getting the respect of the best? Floyd Mayweather had to beat all the same. He had to beat a lot of opponents too to get his status. So to say a guy who the best opponents he has faced is Diego Chavez and Julio Diaz, to say that he could beat the best of this generation, possibly the best ever, Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, the best ever in this era, in this generation for sure. No, there's no doubt no one comes close to them too. But Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, is one of the best ever. And a lot of people would say Floyd is one of the best ever too. To say that this man, Keith Thurman, is going to go in and can beat these guys is just kind of, you got to look at the facts. And really, like I'm saying, I'm not saying he can't do it, but just the experience difference. Thurman's only had 23 fights. In the 23 fights, he has had, they what do you call it? Well, he's actually had 24 fights. There was a no contest one time, but for the 24 fights he's had, none of his opposition has come even close to a Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather. So for Paulie Malignaggi to say he is the best is a very tall claim and very bold statement by him. And like I said, he works for Showtime, but I just think fighters today are being pushed out way too early, and they're trying to hype them up way too early and hype them up to make money off them, to say they're this, they're that, when they haven't earned it. And Keith Thurman, a lot of potential. He looks great. He's a good fighter, very strong. And one day, maybe he will be at a Manny Pacquiao or a Floyd Mayweather status. Well, I don't think he will be, but because that's a very tall status. But maybe one day he might be considered one of the best of this generation. But not now. He's not now. But he has the potential. But to say he's going to beat them right now, it's just, I don't see it. He doesn't have the experience to do it. And he hasn't showed it really, because the opponents he's faced hasn't really showed what his potential could be. So, like I said, maybe he could be at that level, at the highest level. But we don't know, because he hasn't faced anyone even near that high level. So, I'll leave that interview in the description below. A lot of dislikes on that video, obviously, because that's a very bold statement to say Keith Thurman can beat Pacquiao and Mayweather right now. But like I said, Keith Thurman's a good fighter. He just hasn't had any opposition. Hasn't beaten any opposition to tell me that he would beat a Mayweather or a Pacquiao. He hasn't earned it, and I really do think he's getting overrated now. Even though I like him, I like what he's doing in the ring and his style, but he is being overrated. But anyway, it's not his fault. It's the people who are promoting him, Al Heyman, all setting him up with these shitty fights. And like, I'm not saying, like, he's facing an undefeated fighter next, but like I said, I just think they're pushing him out too early and thinking, like, you can't call him the best if he hasn't even faced anyone near the best in his division. So I'll leave that interview in the link description below. My opinion, Pacquiao beats him. My opinion, Mayweather would beat him too. But definitely, like I said, we don't know how good Keith Thurman is, because he just hasn't faced anyone really that could tell me where he would stand against them. So, thanks for watching, and subscribe if you like my videos. Power Up Boxing out.